guys, and welcome to day 3 of Contemporary Week. I hope you've been enjoying the videos thus far. Today's topic is going to be on contemporaries that are deeper and darker and have more emotion. It's just kind of like the opposite of a light-hearted, like fluffy contemporary. Today we're just going to be shining some light on those deeper, darker, more emotional books that, you know, sometimes you're in the mood to read. So I hope you guys are excited, so I'm just going to get into it, but make sure that you stick around till the very end of the video to see how you could possibly win one of these. First book we're going to be talking about is one of my all-time favorites, and that is Cracked by K.M. Walton. Now this book deals with a boy who is heavily depressed because he's severely bullied at school, and he attempts suicide. He swallows a bunch of pills and he tries to kill himself. And then on the other hand, we have this guy who has been bullying this other kid, and there's a whole situation with him that makes people think that he's trying to threaten his own life as well. The first kid we have actually doesn't end up dying and he wakes up in the hospital, and the other kid, everyone's concerned for his health. So both of these boys are put into a mental hospital and they are roommates. And so it's the kid that tried to kill himself because this other kid was bullying him, and it's just a whole situation, and it's really dark, deals with some heavy topics, you know, depression and suicide and all that kind of stuff, but it is such a wonderful story. I absolutely love this one. I haven't heard very many people talk about this book, so I really recommend it. Next up we have Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. This is a book that I obviously talk about all of the time, but I don't think a lot of you that haven't read it realize that this book gets pretty dark, and it's not really something I can tell you that happens because it's a little bit of a spoiler if I kind of exploited that. I'm just saying that this book gets super dark, and that's all you really need to know, but it's this wonderful book about this girl who's been homeschooled her whole life and finally goes to school for her senior year of high school, and she meets this boy there, and there's just a bunch of secrets that are revealed about her past, and it's insane. So if you're looking for something that maybe doesn't actually have to do with like a mental illness or something like really dark like that, I would recommend this one. Next up we have 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher, and now this is a book that I read when I was pretty young. I think I was like 13 or 14, so it's been a while since I read it, but this book follows a boy named Clay who's been in love with this girl named Hannah for like his whole life, but then Hannah commits suicide and it's been really hard on him, and a couple weeks after her passing, this box shows up at his door that has a bunch of cassette tapes in it, and they're all recordings that Hannah did talking about the 13 people and reasons that she was influenced to commit suicide. She basically says, if you're receiving this box, you're on this tape. And so Clay spends the night listening to her tapes, and obviously that's gonna get really dark and depressing, but it's a very interesting story. It's kind of like a mystery, and it deals with a lot of other heavier topics, but it's a really great book. I highly recommend it. Next we have a classic, and that is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Chbosky. This is a book that I feel like every high schooler should read. It's just so beautiful. It's about this boy named Charlie who's a freshman in high school. He doesn't really have any friends, but he makes friends with a bunch of seniors and they just get along so well. He's just really dealing with a lot his first year of high school. He has severe depression, and there's all these like underlying things that have happened to him that you don't really find out until the end of the book. It's just a great story overall about high school, and it's just a coming of age story, but it deals with a lot of those deeper, darker subjects that aren't in a lot of like YA contemporaries. But especially if you're like in high school, I think this is a wonderful book to read. Also, the movie The Perks of Being Wallflower is amazing, so if you want to watch that too, I definitely recommend it. But this book, it's phenomenal, and it's told in letters, so that's something else that's kind of different about it, but it's a wonderful book. Next up we have Find You in the Dark by A. Meredith Walters. Now this is a new adult book, but it is so phenomenal. A. Meredith Walters is an amazing writer, and this book is nothing short of perfection. It follows this girl named Maggie who is introduced to the new kid named Clayton, and Clayton is dealing with a lot of demons himself. He has severe depression, self-harms. I will tell you, this book gets really dark, so if like suicide and self-harm is something that's triggering to you, I don't think I would recommend this book just because it does get very intense. But if you think that you can read that and it won't bother you too much, I definitely recommend this book to you. I just think this book is phenomenal. It's brilliantly written, and I love A. Meredith Walters books, so I highly recommend this one. It's my favorite by her. I can't recommend it to you enough. Next up we have something a little bit different, and that is The Cellar by Natasha Preston, and this book follows a young girl who is kidnapped one night and taken to this guy's house, and he locks her in the basement with a bunch of other girls, and he basically keeps them at his house and says that they're like his family, and he's literally psychotic, like not kidding, psychotic. But this book, it gets really dark and depressing just because it's kind of her life living in this guy's cellar, and so that's kind of why I thought it would tie into this video, but it's also kind of like a mystery, and it's very interesting. I thought this book got a little bit repetitive, but I thought the premise was interesting enough that I kept reading it, and I did enjoy it. So if you're looking for something kind of of weird like that, I would highly recommend this one. Next up, we have The Law of Loving Others by Kate Axelrod. This is kind of a recent read for me, and I highly enjoyed it. This book follows a teenager who has a mother that suffers with schizophrenia, and she never knew about this until her mother kind of has a manic episode and ends up getting readmitted to the mental hospital, and it's really scary for her because she has no idea what's going on. She meets this guy at the mental hospital. He also has a family member that's in the hospital for something else, I believe, but they kind of bond over that. So that kind of gives it the whole darker element, but there's also some other things in here that are pretty dark. Again, I just want to give a warning. If self-harm is something that's triggering to you, I wouldn't recommend reading this book. That's something I did not know was going to be in this book at all. Like, I didn't see it coming, so I just want to warn those of you that are triggered and sensitive to things like that just in case. But if you can handle that kind of thing, I definitely recommend this book. It was a really fast-paced one, and it was interesting to read about her and her mother, so I did like this one. Next up, we have Reason to Breathe by Rebecca Donovan. Now, this is a new adult book, and it is also a series, but I've only read the first book, but I highly enjoyed it. This book follows a teenager who doesn't really have any immediate family, causing her to have to live with her aunt and uncle, who are not very nice to her. So the main character in this book, Emma, kind of has to hide the fact every single day that she is being abused at home by her aunt and uncle, and she's also kind of going through first love, and so it's really hard for her, and it does get pretty dark because it does have those scenes of her and her home life, and those can get pretty sad. But I thought this was a really wonderful book, and I would definitely love to continue on the series. I just haven't picked it up yet, but I really loved the first one and I recommend it. Next up, we have Crank by Ellen Hopkins, and I think I could honestly recommend any Ellen Hopkins book for this video and it would fit the mold, but this is the only one I've read by her, and it's about this girl that gets involved with drugs, and it's very intense and scary and crazy. But if you're interested in something like that, it's perfect for you. A lot of people really love Ellen Hopkins writing. She also writes her books in verse, which kind of looks like this. It's a kind of an interesting way to write a book, so it's kind of fast-paced. You can read this really fast. I know it looks huge, but it's really not. But this book really just follows this girl and how her life is highly influenced by drugs being introduced to it and how it basically ruins her life, and I really recommend it. It's a really interesting and intense story. Next one we have is actually one of my personal favorites, and that is Forbidden by Tabitha Suzuma, and most people know this story as being one about sibling incest, and it is, but it also deals with some pretty dark, unexpected stuff. Like, all I can tell you for this book, because I don't want to spoil anything, is it goes there. It gets super dark, and I didn't expect that, so just like a little warning. But this is one of my favorite contemporaries, and I just thought it fit the mold for this video specifically the best, so that's why I'm sharing it with you. But yeah, it is really about sibling incest, but there's some dark, deep, crazy stuff that goes on in it as well. The last book that I have to share with you guys is not one that's kind of as crazy and dark as the other ones I've shown you previously, but it's one that I just thought was worth mentioning, and that is Looking for Alaska by John Green. A lot of you guys know this as being my favorite book, and it basically is, but this book just has a lot of like underlying meaning and deepness to it. I don't think it's as dark as it is deep and just emotional. There's a lot going on in this book, and I love it, and I just wanted to include it in at least one of the videos this week, so I thought this would be a pretty good one to put it in. But yeah, I think most of you have probably read this, but just in that off chance that you haven't, I highly recommend this book. It's about a boy who goes to boarding school and just all of his adventures there and crazy stuff that goes on. He meets a girl named Alaska, if you're wondering, but it's just a great book, and I highly recommend it. So those are going to be all of the recommendations for today's video, and now I'm going to get into the giveaway. Today's giveaway is going to be taking place on Twitter, and I am giving away a copy of Cracked by K.M. Walton. Reason being is that I'll mention this in a video, and like nobody comments about it. I feel like nobody's read it. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, which book do I want to give away for this video? And I knew this is the one I had to give away just because I love it so much, and it's not that popular, so I want to share it with one of you as well. So if you would like to enter the giveaway, all you have to do is go down below and retweet the tweet that I tweeted, along with subscribing, liking this video, following me on Twitter. Also, just make sure that if you're not 18 years or older to get parental permission, and that the book depository ships to your country. I'll have a link down below to where you can check. Hopefully they do. They ship basically worldwide, but just in case, I would love for you to go check. This giveaway is going to be over a week from today. I believe that is July 6th, so you have a whole week to enter the giveaway. Go retweet the tweet, follow me on Twitter. It's wonderful. So I hope you guys are excited about this giveaway. It's one of my favorites that I'm doing this week, so I'm very happy to be giving it to one of you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and subscribe to my channel if you've not already. I hope you guys are having an absolutely wonderful day, and I will see you in tomorrow's Contemporary Week video. Bye!